He's not a guy that's going to tell us one thing and tell the players something else and feel like he's pulling an okey doke. He comes to the press conference every Wednesday with a message that he wants everybody to know all over Commanders fandom, players, coaches. He's like, this is what we do this week. This is our mindset. This is our mentality. And I think it's going to be the same exact thing that we get at the podium with a lot more swing. Hard knock life for the Commanders during the NFL season. The thing is, they're not alone. The NFL announced today that the NFC East will be featured on the in-season edition of Hard Knocks coming up in the fall. Last year, of course, it was the AFC North, and we got to see a really fun kind of playoff battle unfold between the Steelers and the Ravens. The Bengals fight for everything in the end, and then whatever the hell the Browns were was also on the show. The Bills are also going to be featured in Hard Knocks. They get the regular edition, the training camp, into the regular season edition, or I guess the preseason edition, which is always really fun to see the inside workings of one team and how they go about building the roster. And for some teams, I think it's been really great. I think that part of the allure of the Lions and part of their success, frankly, is having the Hard Knocks cameras there a couple years ago, where everyone got to kind of fall in love with Dan Campbell, see what he was really about, see what that team was really about. You got to see how special the players thought it was as they were getting that thing off the ground in Detroit. Last year, I thought it was just quality entertainment and insight, getting to see guys like Tomlin, and you're like, oh, that's why that guy's like that. John Harbaugh, oh, that's why that guy's always so successful. And then, obviously, some teams, it's been terrible. The Giants preseason or offseason edition last year made it so that no one ever did the offseason version again. I think that that didn't happen this year. So that kind of sucks. But it's because, the Joe Shane and Brian Dable and the decision around Saquon, blew up in their face in a way that was actually John Mara's worst nightmare. And even if you think it's the right decision for the Giants, which I still do, hard to say out loud because you sound like kind of a fool if you don't explain yourself. The quick explanation is Saquon Barkley and the Giants is not really that valuable. You can't have your toppings on a Sunday if you don't have a bowl, and the Giants don't have a bowl. But I'm excited for this. As a viewer, as someone who is in this business, I am very excited to watch both the Bills, but I'm very excited to see the inside of the NFC East, Anthony. What are you most excited about for this NFC East in-season edition of the show?
I think I'm going to be looking forward to December. And to be honest, I was one of the people that was complaining that, we had all of these divisional games right before the playoffs, and how players usually say those divisional games take a lot of toll on the body. So having to endure, 4 back-to-back, divisional games and then go into the playoffs, I thought that was going to be sort of kind of a disadvantage. But at the same token, looking at it from the Hard Knocks perspective, I think everybody's going to be juiced up for every last one of these games just because, one, you have Hard Knocks here, and then also it's a divisional game. So, and I'm expecting the division to be close. I'm expecting Dallas to go out there and do what they do best when they don't have a top 1 or top 2 schedule. They have a third seed schedule this year, so I'm expecting them to go out there and be great. This is what they usually do. And then the Eagles, they're the defending champions, so I think they got a lot riding on that, one to repeat. And then the Commanders, us being in 8 primetime games, I think we deserved it for one. And then also I think, Jaden Daniels and crew, they're going to be ready for the moment. So I think it just sets up for a great December for everybody to be locked in on our division just like we were on the NFC North last year.
Yeah, I mean, if they pick this thing up in post-bye for the Commanders, you have the Broncos on Sunday Night Football. So you're going off the bye into a primetime game. They could pick it up in Madrid, which would be kind of a fun behind-the-scenes, are the Hard Knocks cameras in Madrid. Before that is the Detroit game. Before that is they have that crazy stretch starting in week 6. That's Monday Night Football, Dallas, or Monday Night Football again, Sunday Night Football, Detroit, Madrid. So that's a pretty wild stretch of season there. But you also, as you said, late in the season, you have a lot of things happening there. You have the 2 and 3 weeks against the Eagles. You have the Giants game. You have the Cowboys game. I think for me, generally speaking, though, it's more about like what do we get to see? Who are the personalities that we get to see? So, the Commanders portion is going to open with Jaden at 4:30 in the morning pulling into the facility. Like they always do that with Hard Knocks to some degree. And maybe it's, Jaden and then, 4:30.
40 is probably going to be out there too.
I mean, if I'm 40A, I'm finding out what day they're doing it, and I'm going too. 40A famously, while Cliff was at Texas Tech, did a story and just kept hearing, oh, Cliff's there at 4 a.m., Cliff's there at 4 a.m. And so Sam showed up at 3:56, and sure enough, a couple of minutes later, here comes the headlights, and Cliff gets to the front door and goes, what the hell are you doing here? He's like, heard you show up early, so I'm a reporter. Got to go find out. And walked in the building with Cliff and saw what he did at 4 in the morning. So the Hard Knocks cameras, will they be there for Cliff and for, the morning walkthrough that he and Jaden go through and whoever else is there for that, whether it's Luke or Tavita or, whoever else receiver or coach-wise is there. Like, you're going to get some of that. I'm excited to see what Dan Quinn's like in the room because I have a feeling I know what that's like. By the way, he cusses a lot. Like he cusses a lot for Hard Knocks. He cusses a lot for a football coach. So that'll be fun to get the unfiltered version of Dan. But I just think it's going to be a more cuss-filled version of what he gives us at the podium. Like that's the thing about Quinn that I think is magical is too strong, but like you get what I mean. Quinn is a guy who is extremely consistent with his message. And like Dan, there are other coaches that I've covered where like you ask them something at the podium, they'll give you the right answer, and then you get off the podium and you can get, or like you get them off to the side during the week or whatever. You get them in a non on the record scenario, and they'll give you something a little different. They'll answer the question where they don't really want to answer it. DQ is just going to retell you the same thing he said on the podium. DQ will not give you more info. Because he said what he had to say. There was a reason why he said it. It's on some level calculated, but it's on some level just like he's honest, and that's how he goes about his business. And there's certain things that he doesn't see as our business, which, I mean, it is my business to try to find out. That's what it is to be a journalist. But it's also, if I'm in his shoes, I get it. Like, I respect the fact that he will not tell me certain things. And does it make my job harder? Yes, because I would like, if the more information I have, the more I can understand the way they think, the more informed opinions I can give. But I think that a lot of what they say is just like, yes, there's technique things or maybe certain schematic coverage things that, Hard Knocks is never going to get. I think the version of DQ that we're going to get in the show is just a more swear words version of the message that he gives the media. He's not a guy that's going to tell us one thing and tell the players something else and feel like he's pulling an okey doke. He comes to the press conference every Wednesday with a message that he wants everybody to know all over Commanders fandom, players, coaches. He's like, this is what we do this week. This is our mindset. This is our mentality. And I think it's going to be the same exact thing that we get at the podium with a lot more swearing. And I'm excited for it.
Yeah, I think also we will get I think we sort of kind of get a look of the culture that he's already set, on the practice field, but a little behind the scenes look too, I think a little bit more like playfulness and, I'm looking forward to that.
For sure. I'm looking also to like, are there any assistants they hone in on? If any of these guys become hot names for head coaching or OC jobs, is someone like Cliff getting a lot of love? Is Joe Witt Jr. getting a lot of love? Is Tavita Pritchard on down the list of guys? I think that's going to be interesting. And then I think there's other teams in the division that are super interesting as well. I can talk about more of those. Plus, your calls. What do you make of the Commanders being on Hard Knocks? This is the first time they've ever been featured. So, what you think? 301-230-0980. So, we're talking about Hard Knocks, and the Commanders and their NFC East compatriots will be featured on it. The in-season version, so back half of the year next year through however long it goes. Obviously that could be deep into the playoffs. You kind of assume that one of the NFC East teams will get there. Obviously, Philly, the odds-on favorite, but we're all hoping the Commanders get there, except for those of you that are Cowboys fans, and good luck with that. And if you're a Giants fan, well, you're already sad. So what am I going to say that's going to make it worse? But what are we looking forward to about this? 301-230-0980. I would say the team outside of Washington that I'm actually most curious in, Anthony, is Philadelphia. Like, there is a comedic value, and I should say comedic potential with the Giants that is, I mean, Jameis and Russ are in the same room with a rookie. The Giants quarterback room could be a clown show. Dable's in there yelling at everyone. Kafka's just like, what the hell happened? We were like hot coaching names a couple years ago. We were thought of as smart people, and now look at us. So, there's a comedic potential to the Giants that is very high that I'm very interested in. But functionally, I want to see what Nick Sirianni's like in front of the room. Because I remember watching Hard Knocks last year in the in-season, and you see Tomlin in front of the room, and you're like, this is why this guy wins all the time. Just like his ability to clearly present a message, present an idea, to get everybody moving, to involve players and ensure that the standard is exactly where they want it. The open lines of communication he has with his coaches, with the veteran players that he trusts, guys like Casey Hayward. Like, it's a pretty special array of leadership skills that Mike Tomlin shows, that even on a show that's as highly edited as Hard Knocks, comes through in spades. Like, Harbaugh's got it, but on a different level. There's other stuff happening in Baltimore. In Pittsburgh, like, their roster is wild. There's all kinds of issues. But, like, ultimately when it comes to getting up in front of a team, there aren't 5 coaches certainly in the league, if there's even that many, that I'd pick over Mike Tomlin. And I thought that was on display. There's been this ongoing question in Philadelphia. It's like, what does Nick Sirianni actually do? Because he's got great coordinators a couple years ago. They're awesome. They make the Super Bowl. Those coordinators leave for head coaching jobs in Steichen and Gannon. They have a really rough year. Then he hires 2 more awesome coordinators in Fangio and Kellen Moore, and they win the Super Bowl. Now Moore leaves for New Orleans. Like, how involved is he in stuff? Is he a great motivator? Is he kind of a clown up there and they're so talented it doesn't matter? Like, I'm fascinated to see, like, to kind of get the best possible answer we could get to the question, what does Nick Sirianni do? And I'm kind of guessing we're going to be more impressed than we want to be with him, that he's going to have a way about him that I'm like, oh, yeah, that's why this guy's been highly successful, despite the fact that he's guiding, the fastest car in the race, if you will.
So you more so just looking for his, like, coaching style?
His coaching style, the way he motivates, the clarity with which he presents ideas, the interpersonal skills that he shows. Like, what are the little side moments where he pulls guys aside and has conversations? Like, all the stuff that matters from a leadership standpoint as a coach. Like, we don't think of him necessarily as a CEO head coach, because I think a lot of people think of Nick Sirianni as a buffoon because of some of the sideline antics, because of some of the stuff that he's done. People think this guy's kind of an idiot who just is maybe not an idiot, but he's a puppet. That Howie Roseman's just back there pulling all the strings, and Sirianni's out there dancing and yelling at people, but ultimately, like, doesn't do a whole lot. And I think what's probably going to happen is you realize why Nick Sirianni has been really successful, because we're going to get some insight into who he is as a man, who he is as a leader, and the way he presents himself to his football club that has allowed them to maximize their incredible talent.
Nah, I feel you. So you're interested in the Eagles. I'm interested in Dallas. I want to see how involved Jerry still is on the day-to-day basis. Also, they have a new head coach in Schottenheimer. So I'm interested to see, how he commands the room and things of that nature. Because if memory serves me correctly, he wasn't, was he one of the favorites to land that gig? Like, did they do a deep dive in, like, I guess, like, trying to figure out, like, who their coach?
There was the Dion rumors.
Yeah.
They at first weren't going to move on from McCarthy. Then they were, because they wouldn't pay him. And they never really did a coaching search.
Yeah.
Like, they interviewed enough people, I guess, to satisfy the Rooney Rule. But they ultimately just hired him when he was there the whole time. and he would not have gotten an interview probably anywhere else.
Yeah. So I think that's going to be interesting, like his first season as a whole, but also Dak returns this year. So if he can have, more of a bounce back year. And then you got George Pickens down there as well. I don't know. I think there are a lot of personalities in Dallas right now. So I'm interested to see, how they even put that together and try to control it, to be honest.
Yeah, I think that's pretty fascinating. I also think that the Micah Parsons angle is fascinating. Like, he's in a contract situation. So how's that going to go? Are there any negotiations during the season? Do we hear from him at some point where he's like scared that he's going to get hurt? Is there what happens with Micah? Because it's the biggest story in the league that's just kind of sitting there and there's no news on it, so there's nothing to talk about. But probably the best defensive player not named Myles Garrett in the sport. But he's 6 years younger than Garrett or something like that? So we're talking about the best asset non-quarterback probably in the entire sport. And they're doing their thing that they always do where they don't pay guys early. And so how that goes down and how they, if there's stuff and decisions to be made around the quarterback and CD and Pickens probably going to want new money and like all this stuff, they've got to put the pieces together. And, for as great as they are at drafting dudes, they are brutal at keeping a team together down there. And those dynamics bubbling under the surface, I think, are going to be fun to watch, especially if they're kind of on the brink. Like, what happens if they're kind of floating around 500 and you could try to convince yourself that you're close, or do you at that point go like, nah, we need to blow it up? Like, that dynamic late in the season, I think, is going to be interesting. And then from the Giants side, like, again, the quarterback room is the best potential comedy in sports. Like, Jameis Winston is
he's going to be a real things legend in December. I feel like we're going to get
he
a lot
would
of
be
snippets.
a real things legend if I wanted to put him in the show more. I so distinctly do not like Jameis Winston. Like, I understand the comedic value and the humor, but like Jameis Winston's had some real stuff that I'm like, no. We don't get to laugh at you and you don't get to be funny guy because you did bad things. And I don't like how people who do bad things, especially to women, just get to at some point be like, I'm back, look at me, ha 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 ha. Like, without any, like, I'm all for second chances. I'm all for like acknowledging that you've done harm and repenting, and then eventually you get your life back, but you don't just get to have it. And so, like, he would be a real things legend, but like, Anthony, you've sent me stuff before and I'm like, dang, sucks it's Jameis.
Yeah.
But like, him and Russ together, bro, the show's going to be the show. And like, that's going to be wild. And Jackson Dart's in there. They're going to, at that point in the season, who are they even playing amongst that crew? What is Russ's demeanor during the whole thing? Is he like side-eyeing Jameis, or is he like, come on, no, let's go. We got to help the young guy. Like, however that goes down is going to be pretty interesting. And then, like, is the defense ready to kill the offense? And like, is Malik Neighbors ready to kill everyone else on the offense? Because Malik Neighbors is awesome. The Giants' front seven is maybe one of the best five in football. Like, their front seven's gross. It's so good. And their back end, yikes. Their offensive line has been brutal. And that is going to cause your entire offense to be dysfunctional. So, Dable and Shane fighting for their jobs. There's a lot of comedic value in New York, potentially. Who knows? Maybe they surprised this year. Maybe they actually got it right. But I certainly wouldn't bet on that if I was me. And I am. And I won't be putting any money down on the Giants.
Hey, this is DA, and you're listening to The Hoffman Show on the Team 980 and the Odyssey app.